Welcome to the GuthrieAmerica podcast. We sit down with amazing people who do life in our community and who are from here because we believe every story should be told. I'm your host, Heady Coleman. Today, I am sitting down with Tina Koreis, also known as Tina Helm.
Yes.
So Tina Koreis Helm is how you said on Facebook, right? Or do
I think
you
I put the helm and then the Koreis.
You put the helm, then the Koreis.
Yes.
Wow.
I was helm before I was Koreis, yeah.
Before we jump into this conversation with Tina, will you please go ahead and subscribe to the podcast and leave a review? It would mean the world to me. Also, shout out to the good people down there at State Farm, Kevin Kraft, for helping me fulfill the mission of having every story told of the fabulous people who live here and who are from here. I say this just about every episode, but I was on the phone with Kevin and his team this week because my son just moved out. He's getting ready to get married, and so we had to get rental insurance. And so we called them to get all of that settled. And, of course, they did the job. They got it done. Also, I want to give much love to our other sponsor, and that is North Church Guthrie, for allowing us to have a facility to host these host this podcast. And so I'm so thankful for North Church, and I love the heart to be in the community and serve. And so thank you, North Church Guthrie, for doing that. Tina, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good. How often do you get back to Guthrie?
Oh, not near as often as I'd like.
Yeah.
Again, when I moved away, like I always missed 89ers, and I missed, like I see some of the red brick nights and just family events try to keep you away from that. The 89ers parade is the same day as OU spring football game.
Yeah. You was like,
Yeah.
So has 89ers ever won over OU football spring game?
It has a couple of times. Like when I first moved back, I definitely made it to that first 89ers that I was back in Oklahoma. But then that next year I bought OU season tickets. And since then it's kind of... It's a struggle, but that was one of the things that I really missed.
When you were coming to 89ers back in the day, or even when you came back, like, did you have a spot that you would go to, like where you would meet up with friends or family to watch the parade?
I normally just called like whoever I was meeting with. Sometimes it was Shannon Thompson. I would call her and be like, "Where are you?" Because she would normally come with her kids. And it was across the street from the museum, right there in front of the corner next to the nursing home. Next to the nursing home was kind of over there, yeah. But I normally would kind of walk up and down just because it was good to see people that I hadn't seen or that I didn't get to see because I didn't live here at the time. But
no, that's good. So, so you moved away, joined the military out of high school, and we'll get to that. And so. I always like to kind of start by asking people, like, how would your friends and family describe you? If I was like, tell me, who is Tina like? How would you think they would describe you?
Oh, well, it depends on which friends you
which friends and which family members.
And which time in my life at the same time, right?
Gotcha,
because, again, I think just as people, we grow.
Yeah.
And in high school, I was a completely different person than I was here. And in high school, if you ask those friends, I was a little bit crazy, rambunctious. I liked to go socialize, but just very driven. I guess I would be there for them, right? Like someone that they could depend on. I was dependable, and loyal if they wanted something or needed anything. Just a phone call away. I really tried to stay connected to people back here because they meant a lot to me. Yeah. So I would say, hopefully, that's what they would say about me.
That's really good. Tell me about your family. Now you just retired out of the military. You're married, got a family. Tell me about them. Children.
So with my first marriage, I have 3 beautiful daughters. And they were military kids. They moved around a lot. And now, and because of that, my oldest daughter, she now lives in North Carolina because that's where I retired from. So she stayed and she went to college in North Carolina. She's a middle school science teacher, which I don't know where she gets that from because science was my least favorite subject. I wouldn't say least, but it was down there.
Yeah.
And then she has my 2 beautiful grandbabies. I have 2 grandkids, one who will be 5 in October, and then my granddaughter will be 2 in August. So I that's the hard part of being in the military is that she lives there with her husband and her family now. But my other 2 daughters, my middle daughter, she's in the Air National Guard. She did 4 years active in the Air Force, came back to Oklahoma, joined the National Guard here, or Air National Guard, and she's deployed to Germany right now for 6 months. And then my youngest daughter, she's a dental assistant for a dental depot. She works down in Norman, so she's close to me. And then with my second husband, we adopted a little boy when he was 2.5 months old, and he will be 11.
Oh, wow.
Month. So, yeah, it's...
So you're kind of doing it all over again.
Yes. Because, I mean, we got him when my 2 youngest daughters were in high school.
Uh-huh.
And it was doing it, starting it all over again.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
I feel blessed for the opportunity, though.
So for people who have never adopted, like I guess there's different ways that you can go about adopting kids. What was your process like?
Well, so it was. We thought originally it was going to be a foster adoption.
Okay.
So we started the foster process, and we were doing all of the classes, and they have like home studies where they have people that come into your house and they kind of do background checks and make sure that you're a good person, that you don't have any questionable motives behind getting a child. And then it was a family it turned into a family adoption.
Okay.
She ended up signing over parental rights, and so it went to a private adoption. And it was still a great thing because since we started the foster process, the lawyer that was going to do the foster adoption, he said, "Hey, I'll still do it," and they gave us a discount for it, and because a lot of the stuff was already done because we had started the foster process, so it made it that much easier, and it was just helpful to be able to do it and finish it out that way. So we got him October 31st of 2013, and then the adoption was finalized in February of 2014. So it was a pretty quick.
Yeah. I have some friends who the adoption process has taken them forever, especially if it's from overseas. It gets expensive, and just so many different stories about how people went about and did adoption. So 3 girls, right?
Yes.
And then a boy.
Yes.
What's the difference in raising boy versus girls?
Well, it's very difficult. So my daughters, they were pretty easy. You could give them crayons. You could give them dolls, and they kind of color and they played. And then besides the fact that they had each other to kind of entertain and play with each other, whereas my son, because of the age difference, it's almost like he's an only child.
Yes.
He's also on the autism spectrum, so he's got his own developmental delays. But I always say he's nothing but dirt and noise, because that kid is all over the place. If he can find mud, because he's very sensory, he would have mud covered all over himself, and he is just loud and completely opposite. You completely had to try to keep him entertained. He was bouncing off the walls. So yeah, it was even just the difference in genders, I think, is I've heard that a lot is with girls, they're a little, most girls because I think that, I don't know if I was like that. I'm probably
some girls.
I was a tomboy. So
yes. That's the reason sometimes we set people up for failure when we tell them how our children are raising children, because then they have children. You're like, this child is nothing like the way Heady said his kids were, because everybody, even in my own house, like my 3 children, they're all so different. Yeah. And I've had the opportunity to raise boys and girls, and there's definitely a difference between raising the 2 of them. But I bet my daughter's not like your daughters, and
Yeah.
I think for me, I just kind of adapt to each child and do the best I can to raise them.
Oh, yeah. Because, I mean, when they were younger, it was one way. And then it's like teenage years is completely different. That's a totally different realm. 3 teenage daughters in the same household was a struggle.
I bet. Yes. Because girls are a little bit, they're particular. At least mine is.
Oh,
and
yeah.
the whole shower and just how it's just different.
Yeah.
I'm trying to fight my boys to take showers, and my daughter's like, it's really crazy. Do you have a favorite child? Would you even say that you had a favorite child on here? Like, I have a favorite child, so I like to ask people if they have a favorite child.
I always say I don't really have a favorite. It's always whichever one's easiest, right? Because my oldest child was very self-directed. I mean, she got herself up. She wanted to go to school.
Oh.
She studied.
Yeah.
She, she had a career path.
Favorite child right there. That sounds like a favorite child.
It was easy. And then, of course, the middle child was just like, didn't want anything to do with anybody. She hated the world. She, you tried to wake her up, her phone would be on her ear, like just going off. And you're like, can you get up? And then all of a sudden, I'm the bad guy because she's running late. And then the youngest, she was a little bit of both, right?
Okay,
I think she was she could have her moments where she was difficult, but I think the oldest, she ended up helping because both of them played soccer.
Okay.
So like the oldest one took the youngest one under her wing and would like take her to soccer practice and help. But my youngest, when she started to be able to like work, she was very driven like me, where she had a job, she held down a job. She when we moved back to Oklahoma, we hadn't even moved into our house. I think we were like maybe driving cross country. I just remember being in a hotel room and her saying, hey, I have a job interview.
Oh, wow.
To start this job. And she worked her job, went to school for dental assistant. And then even after she became a dental assistant, she still did dental assisting, worked that job, and went to school because she's thinking about doing the dental hygienist thing still.
Yeah.
So she's constantly just working. And it's at times my oldest, when she was going through her struggles, because she stayed in North Carolina when we left, and it was hard for her and it was hard for me, but she had her struggles and then I had the other two.
Yeah.
And so again, I always say, like, do I have a favorite? At times, because they're doing good. But it's really hard to say a specific child.
Yeah. That sounds like most parents. Most parents be like, it just depends on the moment.
It is.
One can be the favorite at any given time. But I just keep the same favorite all the time. It's no changing.
So do they know who your favorite
is? Yes. Yeah. It's a whole thing. Yeah. And I always tell them, like, I'm willing to go to counseling later in life if it bothers you, whatever. We just messing with them, but it's really good. Tell me about your husband.
We met in the Marine Corps.
Okay.
So I was stationed at Cherry Point, and I was crash fire rescue, so I did the firefighting over there. And he was a pilot, a CH-46 pilot, which is a helicopter pilot, and he worked for search and rescue. And so we had to have a meeting one time because some of our guys, they had extinguishers out on this range that the helicopters and some of the ships would go out to. And we had to go out there and do some inspections of the extinguishers. And so we kind of met that way.
Okay.
And then we dated. He's 6 years younger than me, but I think when you're a little older and like successful in your own right, right? Like what you're looking for is different than when you're younger.
Gotcha.
And so he hit all the marks, and he just was fun to go and do stuff with.
Yeah.
Like, again, I lived in Oklahoma. I never went snow skiing.
Yeah.
Where are you going to go? We knew how to water ski. We could tube. We could float the river or something, but
snow skiing, no.
And so he.
Is that how he won you over? He took you snow skiing?
No. Well, I kind of. I prefer not to snow ski. It's very hard, especially learning later on in life. But like to even take us out there and take my kids, and he's just been a great guy. But he ended up getting out of the military. We lived in San Diego at the time, and he ended up getting out of the military, and he was a military brat. So a majority of his life he lived in California, and his family was in California, but he was willing to move to Oklahoma. And a lot of the reason behind moving to Oklahoma was because of our son. And he was wanting to be a pilot, like an airline pilot. And I was like, you're going to be gone all the time. I want to be around my family. And it was a year after my oldest brother passed away from cancer. And, it was just kind of an emotional time anyway. And being in the military, you miss a lot. You miss weddings, you miss birthdays, you miss 89ers Day, you miss like OU Texas games, or just like all the stuff that you see that your families and friends are doing. And some of those are funerals, and just to be able to be home to celebrate life events with my family, and then to have my family there to support me. So we moved back to Oklahoma. He had gotten on with a small airline. He just really didn't like the smaller airline because it was a regional. And then he got a contracting job and did that for a little bit. But now he works for United Airlines. He flies. He actually is doing international flights now.
Okay.
So he gets to travel and get to see some really neat stuff.
Wow.
So yeah, he's living the life.
Yeah.
It's weird, and I can't say that it's weird, but it's great. And one of the things that I love too is just to see people become successful and to reach their goals and their ambitions. And that was one of the things that he wanted to do, and it makes my heart happy knowing that he's doing that. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's really cool. Did you ever what is it like to be married to a pilot? Like, what are some of it seems like it would be challenging, but at the same time fun. But I guess when you've been in the military, you're used to being away from each other or have to be deported and kind of those things. So you kind of adapted to that.
Yeah. And I think that that's one of the things that helps us to be successful, right? Even because whenever I retired, he was still active duty. And so I retired. We got married and I retired, and he was living in Washington State in Pullman. So Washington State University and the University of Idaho. He was the Marine officer instructor up there for their ROTC program. And so me and my two daughters moved there. We moved in by ourselves because he was in Quantico doing officer candidate school for them, because that's one of their supplementals during the summer when they're not in school, is they're helping with all of the ROTC people that are going through OCS. And then when we left Washington and went down to San Diego, it was the same thing. We went to Miramar. So the CH-46 is what my husband flew. They retired that, so he ended up transitioning to CH-53s, which are the big helicopters. And so when we went down to Miramar, we moved into San Diego by ourselves because he was doing training in North Carolina for his new aircraft. Yeah. And then I think he wasn't even with the squadron for very long, and then he went to Okinawa for 6 months. So it was almost like our whole, half of our engagement, he was in Washington when I was in North Carolina. So it sets it up for almost like when we're together for too long, it's like, don't you have somewhere that you're going?
Don't you have traveling or something to do? But to be fair, like, I'm assuming, like, being a pilot for United Airlines, you may be gone for a couple of days or so. You're not gone for weeks on the end.
No. Yeah. It's almost it's evens out. It's a very good time because he'll be gone for maybe 4 or 5 days, and then he'll come back, and he'll be back. And it depends on how he bids his trips. So sometimes he'll be back for like 2 weeks. Yeah. And it allows during that 2 weeks for him to be able to do something. So me and him might travel during that 2 weeks. Yeah. So it's good.
Now, being in the military now, understanding that you're married to a pilot, what's been the best place what's been your favorite spot that you've ever been?
Oh, man. It's really hard to say because there's So recently I just went to Corfu, Greece. But I did that for my 50th birthday. And I say my favorite place, but the reason is my daughters were all 3 there.
Oh.
And we didn't have kids. It was just like quality time with us. And we haven't really had that since, I don't know, probably before I was married. Because like I said, my oldest daughter stayed in North Carolina, and like she would come out, but then my middle daughter, she was in the Air Force, so then she's not there. Or then when my oldest daughter would come out, she would have her husband and the 2 kids, and then everybody else in the family was either hit or miss. But there was never really quality girl time.
Yeah.
But we went to Greece and just kind of went to a bunch of different beaches there and just kind of hung out and spent quality girl time.
Yeah.
But anywhere in Europe is amazing because their transportation system that they have set up, it allows like you to go somewhere and then you're like, oh, well, I would like to go here, but it's way over. But you could catch a train. You could catch the tube. It's so easy to get around. No rental cars are needed. You just need a place to stay.
Yeah. That's when I love like big cities and things like that. So have you been to Taiwan?
No.
Never been to Taiwan?
No.
Okay. My daughter wants to move to Taiwan.
So going the other way, going to Japan, it's such a long flight. So 10 hours. It took us 10 hours to fly to Munich from Houston. Mm-hmm. And that's a long time. It's like 20 hours going the other way.
No, I looked whenever she started talking about this. I started looking like, all right, let me see what this could look like if this really happens. And like the tickets to get there were crazy, and the flight, it was like 20 hours, like something like that, something crazy. I'm like, I don't even want to fly an hour, let alone 20 something. But if my princess goes, I'm gonna figure out how to get there.
And if you do that, you got to go the extra mile and get her that lay flat bed so she can sleep.
Oh, when she flies,
Yes.
Extra 10,000.
Yeah, it's expensive, but
it's worth
it.
Yeah, it's worth it. I can only imagine. So talking about cities, okay, we're jumping into a new segment. This is called Top 5. Okay, and I'm gonna give you 5 cities, and you got to put them 1 to 5, 1 being the greatest. Now you don't know the next city, so when I give you the first city, wherever you put it, it has to stay. You can't move it. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
All right. The first one is Orlando, Florida.
So which one's the highest? 1?
1.
Okay. I'll say 2 right now.
You can't move it.
I can't move it.
You can't move it.
So 2.
Okay. 2. Oklahoma City.
4.
San Francisco.
5.
Chicago.
3.
New York.
I guess a 1's the only spot left, right? So I guess I have to make that one 1.
What would you have changed it?
I probably would have put Orlando up to 1.
Really? You really like Orlando?
Well, that's where Disney World is and Universal Studios. That's why. That's why I struggle on whether or not the humidity. Probably not Orlando in the summer.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, that's good. We now know. All right. So this next segment is called Fact or Fiction. Okay. Fact or Fiction. You ready? Fact or fiction? The Great Wall of China is visible from space.
Fact.
Well, based on Google, it's fiction.
Okay.
It's not visible to the naked eye from space, is what it says. Okay.
Well, I've seen it on Google Earth.
All right, here we go. Fact or fiction? Bananas grow on trees.
That is true. Fact.
It's fiction.
No.
Bananas grow on a large something plants, not trees. So I guess the thing that it grows, I thought it was true.
It's like a big palm tree.
It's not. It's a plant. It's not a tree.
Oh. Yeah. Well, I call it a palm tree.
It's
it's not an actual
I can't even say this
tree.
word. It's a HERBACEOUS plants.
Okay.
Yeah. Fact or fiction? Here we go. Humans have 5 senses.
Fact. Come on now.
Fiction. Humans have more than 5 senses, including balance and temperature.
Temperature is a feel. So is balance, really? I
balance?
mean, like,
I guess they're doing it together. Yeah,
they're going to have to change our science book.
Number 4, fact or fiction. The shortest war in history lasted 38 minutes.
I'm going to say fact because.
Yeah, you're going to stick with it. You're sticking with it. You're like, as soon as you would have went fiction, it would have been. Yeah, it is fact. The Anglo-Zambar War of 1896 lasted about 38 minutes.
Okay.
I don't even know how does that
the
work?
The invasion of Poland was a quick one. That one.
how does something last? Did they even throw a bomb or anything? 38 minutes?
That was just they threw words and said, "Never mind, I'm good." They had words.
They have words. Because how does a war officially start? Like, is it paper? Like, we are at war once we declare that, or does somebody have to shoot something?
I don't. I think you actually have to declare it. So maybe it was like, okay, we're declaring war. And they're like, never mind, I was kidding.
38 minutes later. Fact or fiction. Goldfish have a 3-second memory span.
Oh, I'm going to say true because that one I know.
Fiction. Goldfish can remember things for months.
How do you know that?
Yeah, how do you
ask
know?
them a question?
How do you know? All right, here's another. We got 3 more, I think. Fact or fiction. Napoleon Bonaparte was extremely short.
That's false.
That's fiction.
Yes, well, fiction, but yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
And so my son, one of his things is he is like World War II wars, Napoleon and all that. And we actually just read that. It was just that his bodyguards were extremely large, which made him look short.
Wow. Yeah, because for today, he would have been short because at that time, the average height was 5'7".
Yeah.
So.
But even 5'7" is not.
Yeah, it's not
really short.
Yeah, it's not too. Yeah. Fact or fiction: humans and dinosaurs coexisted.
Fiction.
Yeah. Dinosaurs went extinct around 65 million years before humans appeared. Number 8, fact or fiction: lightning never strikes the same place twice.
That's fiction.
That's fiction. Lightning can and often strikes the same place twice. Multiple times, actually, is what it said. All right. Fact or fiction: carrots improve eyesight.
I'll go with a fact because that's a vitamin.
Fact, yes. While carrots contain vitamin A, which is essential for good vision, they do not improve eyesight beyond normal levels, but they do. Last one. This is the one I never even thought about this. Fact or fiction: honey never spoils.
Fact.
Yeah, right. Fact. Can last indefinitely if stored properly due to its antibacterial properties.
Yeah, it just gets real thick.
Yeah, I never thought about it until I looked up these fact or fiction questions. So very good. Way to go. Yeah, good job. Good job.
That started off kind of rough.
So tell us, you moved to Guthrie in 7th grade. Mm-hmm. Tell me what that was like for you. Like, I know that you said that there was a kind of a culture shock going from.
A culture shock.
Yes,
yeah.
Tell me about it and where you came from.
So I grew up in Del City, and like I said, all through school I was a latchkey kid. We pretty much raised ourselves. I rode my bike wherever, went to the convenience store. We used to collect cans, mow lawns to get money, and then go to the little convenience stores to buy candy or Bop magazines or whatever it was, Garbage Pail Kid cards. And in the summer, I rode my bike or went to the pool every day, and my mom would just pick me up on her way home from work. And then in 7th grade, we moved out to Guthrie where my grandma lived on 5 acres, and the closest convenience store was 3 miles away. We lived couldn't even see my neighbors. So it was, that's why it was a culture shock, right?
Yeah.
And then back then we had phones like landlines.
Yeah.
We had a party line that we shared with the neighbor, and people don't even know what that is
No.
now. And it was long distance to call Del City. So they used to go to Waterloo Road. They used to be Quickies, but it's Waterloo and I-35. The smaller gas station that's across the street there, and use the pay phone to call friends back in Del City because, you run up your phone bill quick just trying to talk to people that you knew back then. So used to be like some of the weekends because my brothers were older and they had girlfriends and always wanted to go back to Oklahoma City. So I had friends that I would go and I would hang out and stay with them on the weekends. But for the most part, it was, you get on the bus, it'd be an hour before you get to school because we lived so far out. Yeah.
And then getting home, it's an hour coming.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you're getting home at 4 or 5.
It's like we was working a job. It's 6 o'clock in the morning, get back at 5 o'clock at night. Yeah.
That would be pretty wild. I've heard people talk about the party line on numerous occasions. And you moved to Guthrie in 7th grade and y'all had a party line.
Yeah.
See, I maybe if you were in town, you didn't have a party line.
Well, yeah, because of the rural areas, they only had like so many phone lines that they would run out that way.
Yeah.
So we shared it with one of the neighbors, and so if it rang for our phone, it was like a normal ring. But if it was hers, it would be like ring, 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 ring. And she hardly... I felt sorry for her because, again, 3 teenagers living in this one house. We were always on the phone. And she was hardly ever on it. But when she got on it, she was on it.
So when you picked it up, could you hear her talking?
Oh, you could hear.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is so crazy because I've heard people talk about that and it always feels like, man, I knew what a party line was, but I didn't know a party line existed while I was still, a young person. Common, no. But people who lived outside of town, I guess, had party lines. Like, when did you not have a party line? Do you remember how old you were?
Oh, it was probably maybe just a couple more years.
Okay.
I think she probably got sick of it and paid the extra money to get that line for her. I don't remember if it was us or her, but it wasn't too much longer. Yeah, but I just still even remember it was like a rotary phone too. It was like
yes. So it's also crazy. Like I feel like I was telling my kids here recently about long distance phone calls.
Yeah.
Like if you wanted to call Langston, which is you could throw a rock and hit it. It was a long distance phone call.
Yeah.
And now it's like I call to Brazil, wherever, and it's not a long distance phone call.
So now it's weird is like, so Simmons was kind of like where that landline, it wasn't even like maybe a quarter of a mile up the street from our house. And I had a friend that lived right on the other side of there. And so when we would meet, I would just call and let it ring and then like hang up. And she knew to meet me like in the cul-de-sac. Like I'm headed that way because
it was long distance.
It was long distance.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
It was.
Oh my! And talking about payphones, like they would like a payphone. What? Yeah, you had to put quarters in it. Yeah. If you was calling long distance, you had to put a whole bunch of quarters in it. Oh my goodness! Collect calls. I guess you still get a collect call.
I'm ready to pick me up.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. That's right. Yeah. So and then you move here. You go to the junior high. Do you do 7th and 8th grade at the junior high?
Yes.
And then you go into the high school?
Yes.
Do you remember any of your favorite teachers? Did you have a favorite teacher?
Oh, man, there were so many. So I loved Miss Allen and Miss Green.
Oh, yeah.
And Miss Hinky.
Yeah.
And, of course, Coach Tarter.
Yeah.
Coach Blagowski. Had my shoe as a driver's ed teacher and that old. Did you have driver's ed?
No, I didn't do driver's ed.
It was that big bulky Chrysler. That thing was so old, but yeah, I mean, there was. I think I loved math, so Miss Hinky again comes to mind. Miss Green, just because she would tell you what it was, how it was, and. It was a kind of real talk in her class. If you needed anyone to talk to, she'd sit down. Same thing with Miss Allen. And then Coach Tarter, just because I ran track, and he was such an awesome coach.
Yeah. So. Whenever, high school, did you do ROTC?
No.
You did not do ROTC, which is
Yeah.
But you decided at some point you were going to go into the military. Tell me about that.
Well, So in high school, my freshman and sophomore year, I played sports and ran track and basketball, and I stayed in there. And then we went to state and won state. Now, I rode the bench the whole time. So
no, you won state.
I was on the team.
Keep the story like it is.
Yeah, when we won state, that year we went a little bit past when I would have went and started running track. So I missed track that year. And then like that next year, just a conflict with the basketball coach. I ended up quitting basketball. And so like my ambitions, like when you quit doing organized sports and having a reason to perform.
Yeah.
My mindset changed. So I wasn't applying myself like I should have. And then I sprained my ankle real bad. Somebody walked in front of me when I was doing the sprints on the straightaways, and I sprained my ankle, so I missed track that season. And so my mom never really sat down and talked to us about college, what we needed to do. So it was just kind of in my mind that, well, I'm not going to get a scholarship because I'm not playing sports anymore.
Yeah.
My grades started to kind of fall just because my priorities changed to doing extracurriculars away from school. And so when it came time, again, since we lived out, there wasn't really money for me to have a car to get into town to have a job. Mm-hmm. And my mom couldn't afford a car for me. So when my brother had joined the Army, I always thought, no, I'm not going to do that. But I knew I wasn't going to join the Army. I thought about it, and one of the guys that had graduated with my brother was in the cafeteria, and he was in the Marines. And so I went up and was just kind of talking to him about it, and I was sold. I was like, all right, so this is a way that I can get a job, get out of Guthrie, better myself. And if I join the military, if I'm going to do it, I'm going all out. So I'm going to join the Marine Corps. So I was like, oh, it's 13 weeks and the Army's only like 8. Oh, it was like the hardest. And I think I remember one time too, there was like a commercial that was like, we're looking for a few good men. And I'm like, well, what about the women? Are you looking for women too? Because I can do this. Yeah. And I think just because of my competitive nature, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go all out. So yeah. I did. I ended up joining the Marine Corps to better myself and get a job and kind of get that education a different way.
And you served our country, so thank you.
Yes. Yeah. It was my pleasure.
Yeah. Did you see any, what do they call it, when you got to go over, fight, or? Oh, yeah.
I deployed 3 times.
3, okay.
Yeah, I was in Kuwait in 2003. That was for the initial. So this was in 2003, not Desert Storm Kuwait, because that was a different conflict.
Was this 9/11? No.
No, this was before that. So in 2003 is when we invaded Iraq, so we pushed from Kuwait. So I was in Kuwait, then I went in 2003, and then I went to Iraq in 2008, and then I was in Afghanistan in 2010.
Okay. So, like, what was the time frame on those for you? Like, was it months you were over there, a couple of years?
No. So for Kuwait, because it was the initial push, we didn't know how long we were going. We left in February. I was back in May. So that one wasn't very long.
Yeah.
But in Iraq, we were over there for about 7, almost 8 months. And then Afghanistan, we were over there for 6 months, 7 months. February till September, almost October.
Now, I've never been in the military. I've never had to go overseas, to go into a place that I've never been before, and potentially people shooting at you or bombs dropping or any of that stuff. What is that like as a person when you go in? What is that like to go into those situations?
Oh, it's stressful. Yeah. But I think because you train for it and that you get the training, you're with people that you have confidence in, and you kind of know what you signed up for when you go over. And the locations that I was in, it was stressful to be there. Like in Kuwait, we had like some of the Scud alerts until they got close enough to Iraq Iraq to keep them from shooting them, so they couldn't reach us. we would go straight into bunkers and then straight out onto the flight line for aircraft emergencies. And so it was very high tempo, very high stress. But in some of the other locations, it was just like a job. It was just hot. It was somewhere else. We didn't interact in the communities. We just stayed on base.
Okay.
And on base, you could still get some of the indirect fire when people would like send rockets or stuff over into the base. But it was almost like just having a job, but just in a crappy town that was really hot and dirty. It just felt like you could just never
bases overseas are just like crappy little towns, just not a whole bunch to do. And yeah, like so when you're in these little towns, bases, like what does a day look like? You go to work, get off at 5?
Oh no. Like, I mean, so whenever we were in Kuwait, we did 24-hour shifts. And you would be able to sleep during that 24 hours, but you were on call. So if there was an emergency or if there was a fire or any kind of alarm that went off, you were waking up and you were responding. So there was like a week, like I said, when they were doing that initial push, that we would get emergency after emergency. I had 22 in a day. So it was like as soon as you would lay down, I didn't even take off my mop gear, which is like the chemical gear that you wear to protect if like anything happens, like a dirty bomb or something comes over. But, and then like as it got closer, like I said, when they kind of got into Iraq, it died down and it was just like you'd go and it was some pretty cool emergencies that we got to go on.
Yeah.
We had an A-10, which is like a tank killer airplane that got shot up over Baghdad that came back. And this little pilot, she was smaller than me, and it was pretty shot up. She had to come back under manual control, and come to find out, like they did some interviews with her back here. It was just like it was a big event to know that you kind of responded to that. Was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then in Iraq, we did the security thing. So we manned the entry control point. So we scanned all the vehicles that came in and out.
Oh.
And, that one was a little bit more stressful.
Is the mirror thing real? Do they use the mirror to see up underneath the car?
We had.
You know what I'm saying?
You know how like when you go to the airport now and they have that scanner that scans your body?
Yes.
We had something similar to that.
For cars?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it was pretty stressful because you dealt with what they considered TCNs or third country nationals that would come through. Even some of the citizens, you never know who's friend or foe, and so it was a little bit stressful. And those were 12-hour shifts. And then when we were in Afghanistan, that one was a little bit different. We went all over the place and built airfields and did inspections for airfields. And so I flew in a lot of helicopters, a lot of different places over there. That one was a little bit different, but they did the same thing with some of the different shifts.
Yeah. Wow. So, yeah. That is it. Now that you're out and you've been out for a while now.
Yeah.
Does it make it hard to adjust to real life, or is it not quite like the way that I'm thinking about it? Like if I'm in the military 21 years, I'm going through the same routine every day, and then you get out and now it's like, oh, I don't have all the things that.
So it is a little bit different. Primarily going back into the workforce. Being in the Marines for 21 years, being a chief warrant officer, being the one in charge. Now I work with a lot of civilians that have never been in the military. Some of them have never even really, this is their first job even working because I'm a DOD civilian. And I've been told, hey, you're direct. You're very abrasive. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be, but you do get used to it where you just, hey, I need this done.
Yeah.
I get this done. And you never really thought about how you interact with people.
Yes.
I have time anxiety. So if I know I'm running late, like my stress level and my anxiety gets up there, I always feel like I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
So I have to have everything kind of in a certain location. So if I do have to go or, something comes up, and I also feel like I have to be in control. right? So I don't drink very often, if at all, because in certain situations it's like I have to be ready.
Yeah.
And
even though you don't have to be ready anymore.
No, and the only time that I do drink is in situations where I know that I don't have anything but me to worry about.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit challenging. You're a little bit more hyper aware. I'll go to like concerts or something, and I'm always just kind of looking around, watching people, making sure that everything's okay.
Yeah.
Like if a fight breaks out, I'm ready to go. It's so it is a little bit different, but there's people that are like that have never been in the military.
This is true. This is true. So some of my favorite movies are movies like 13 Hours. Have you seen that? Or
yes.
Oh my goodness, the one where they capture Bin Laden, the young lady who kind of helps. She's looking at it's a lot of data. What is that? I love that movie.
I forget her name.
I can't think of the name of the movie right now.
Yeah.
But when you watch those movies or those kind of movies, like, are you like, this is not real, or is it like, oh no, that's pretty spot on?
Well, because I never physically did a lot of the stuff that they dealt with, right? Because I was never in a combat situation.
Gotcha.
A lot of mine was like indirect fire, having to get into the bunkers or whatnot. But you do go to different classes and schools, platoon leaders schools, and some of it you're like, yeah, that's not.
That's not how that works.
A lot of it's like, conserve your ammo. What are you firing at? Hollywood, why they just be wasting ammo? They're just shooting everywhere. But
that is hilarious.
But again, at the same time, I've never been in that situation. There could be people that are just like putting it on full round burst and sending it down range. I don't know.
Oh, that is hilarious. All right, this segment's called You Pick. Okay.
Okay.
You pick, pass or answer. What's your go-to social media platform?
Facebook.
Yeah. Tina, you're showing your age.
I know. That's what I was like.
You said it with so much calm. Facebook. Yeah. All right. Do you have a book you most suggest to others?
I love to read. I mean, I just listened to a book. I got a book that I would but I've read Harry Potter like 6 times.
Is that the book you suggest to others?
Yes. and a lot of it is I'm into fiction. I think reality, sometimes you just have to escape it, and that's my way of escaping it is just to read fiction. Nonfiction, sometimes I have been able to read some. Call Sign Chaos, which was one of the Marine Corps commandants. He had written that. I've the Lone Survivor, and there was another one, Unbroken.
Okay.
Which was an amazing book. They did a movie about it, but again, the movie doesn't do it justice. And so there's some of them that I'll read if it kind of piques my interest, but I'm really into just fiction and escaping reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But none of those you suggest to other people, really, though. You don't.
I mean,
have
nothing
one.
that I'm like, oh, you
got to read. Okay.
Got to read this one.
All right, pick or pass. You can decide. How do you find inspiration in the work you do, or in general?
Oh, because I'm a DoD civilian. I mean, I still feel like I'm part of the mission. I'm still making a difference to the warfighter, to the people that are doing the job that I did for so long. So, I mean, just feeling like I'm still making a difference is an inspiration. Yeah,
that's good. Last person that made you laugh or smile before this interview, of course.
Oh, I was about to say you, of course. I'd say my brother, because I dropped off my son to him before I came up here.
Okay.
And, just kind of cracking up.
Yeah, that's good. What's one thing on your bucket list?
Ooh. There's so many different things. I travel to Europe a lot, but I would really, really like to see some of the national parks and like Arizona, Utah, the Moab, like those areas.
Yeah.
But that you have to like physically get out and like drive to those locations, and it's like the time to do that.
Yeah.
But those are definitely on my bucket list.
Gotcha. What's one hidden talent you possess?
I'll pass on that.
All right, pick or pass. Here we go. Pass or answer, should I say? If you could be any animal, what would it be?
I don't know. Some of these people's dogs. I'd like to be a dog, but not one of them ones that's at the shelter. Because some of these people, they treat
So you don't want to be a dog at the pound? You want to be...
Yeah, some of these people's dogs have the life.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so...
Yeah, no, that is so true. I'm like... Some people take better care of their dogs than their kid. I'm like, you don't even show that much compassion and love for your kids, but the dog is a different story. All right. Pass or answer. What's the weirdest food you've ever eaten? You've traveled the world, so you may have eaten...
Probably like grilled octopus.
Oh, my.
It's like, because you can actually see the tentacles and like the little...
No.
That's probably one of the weirder ones.
What does that taste like? Don't say chicken.
No, because it's chewy. But it doesn't taste necessarily like chicken, but it tastes like a grilled something that's but chewy. It's chewy. It's the texture thing is what's off-putting. Yeah,
my
the
goodness.
texture is off-putting.
Like, is this something like you're looking for it again on a menu, or is this like, I did that once and I'm good?
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like calamari's fried, and anything fried pretty much tastes good. I can eat that and eat it again, but like the actual grilled octopus is
you're good.
Not,
you're good. Pick or answer. If you could write a note to your younger self in 2 to 3 sentences, what would you say?
Oh man. Love yourself. I think everybody coming up now, looking back and even seeing some posts or talking to people that are older, we all have our own insecurities.
Yeah.
Don't take things that people say to heart. Don't look for love in all them wrong places. I think,
yeah, you want to be mindful of that. You want to be mindful of that.
Look for love in the right
places.
And love yourself before anyone else.
I like that. Here's the last one. What's the best piece of advice? This is the last one for pass or answer. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Probably what I just said is just love yourself before you can love anybody else. It's very hard to love other people if you're lacking the love for yourself.
If you're struggling to love yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, let's get into some fun. These are pretty fun. Either or, okay? Either or. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
How early? What are we talking here?
6:30.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
6 o'clock, 6:30. I struggle to stay up past 8. I'm looking at my son. Are you ready to go to bed?
Oh, my goodness. Beach vacation or mountain vacation? Or mountain retreat, should I say?
I really think it depends on the mindset because there's times. I say the beach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just sitting out on the hot beach. Just
as long as, that's what I'm saying. Like, it can't be real hot. Like, it depends on the mindset. Like, some there's... Because the mountain has cool air, and I love to sit outside and like drink my coffee and just kind of relax. And sometimes even in the evenings, but the beach,
you ain't doing
sometimes
that.
Sometimes you're like, I need to get away from the heat.
Yes. Yes. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Netflix binge or read a good book?
Oh, read a good book.
Sweet or savory?
Sweet.
Sweet. City life or countryside?
Countryside.
Introvert or extrovert?
Extrovert.
With no hesitation, they're an extrovert. Yeah. Winter or summer?
Summer.
Really?
Yes.
I thought you was going to say winter. Classic rock or pop music?
Ooh. Classic rock.
Classic rock. Physical book or ebook?
Physical.
My children bought me a Kindle for Father's Day, and I love it because like I like to have books, but they're hard to carry. Like, and I normally have one or two. And
so ebooks when you're traveling.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than being almost done with the book and having another one that you need to read and having to take both of them with you.
Yes.
So whenever I was deployed, that's what I did was I bought me a little Nook.
Yeah.
And I read like 20-something books because we would travel and you'd have to go and you'd sit and wait for the airplane and you're waiting for a long... And you can't almost be done with a book and then have a book that you're waiting to read and then take both of them. Because then you're like, you got to wait.
Yes. However, I'm like you. I would rather read a physical book, though.
Yes.
Calling or texting?
Call.
Cooking at home or dining out?
Dining out.
So do you cook? Can you cook?
I can cook. It's so that the attention that it takes, it doesn't cook quick enough. And if it's anything that I have to sit and wait on or I have to keep an eye on, I might be off doing something because I'm like a multitasker. Or I'm constantly doing something, and I've run something by like being like all the way. Even like when you start water to boil, and then it's like 20 minutes later, you're like, oh, I got water in there.
You drifted off.
Yeah. So if it's quick and easy, I don't mind cooking it, and I can cook. Or if I can put it in a crock pot or something like that to do.
Just chill and you can walk away.
But if I have to stand there and watch stuff and I have to constantly
stare,
it takes it out of me.
Gotcha. Adventure or relaxation?
Adventure.
Yeah. Movies or TV shows?
Movies.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Vanilla.
Sneakers or dress shoes?
Sneakers. Tennis shoes. I'm all about the tennis shoes.
You don't want no high heels?
No.
Action movies or comedies?
Comedies.
Okay. Art gallery or music concert?
Music.
Historical fiction or sci-fi?
Historical fiction.
Historical fiction. Okay. Yeah. All right. So jumping back in a few questions. We talked about 89ers, but I don't remember, was that before we hit record or after we hit record? I think you mentioned 89ers right when we started.
We did kind of mention it.
But did we talk about your favorite spot? And you talked about walking down.
I said that I kind of liked walking and just kind of seeing people. But if I had someone to meet, I just kind of went where they were.
Yes.
When you come back, they normally have their spot. And since I didn't have a spot, I just go where they are.
For sure.
Yeah.
Coming back to your husband, how did he ask you to marry him? Do you mind sharing that? Do you mind? I love that question. I love finding out how people got asked to be married.
So he had a lot of pressure coming from like his mom because he had never been married, never had kids before. His mom was just like, she was part of the process of picking out the ring. And so she was constantly like, when are you going to do it? Had one of our mutual friends that kept saying like, when are you going to ask? And was kind of giving him a hard time. He got really nervous. And it just ended up being I was dropping him off at the airport because he was going to Las Vegas to one of his buddies' weddings. And he just kind of leaned across the console and popped up there. He goes, will you marry me? And so I think that's another reason why I love the guy, because he is authentic. He's not like one of those smooth talkers or romantic like ladies men that just knows what to say and what to do. He's very awkward still to this day when it comes to our relationship. You know, we've been married for 11 years and he's still just like with the compliments. Sometimes I just kind of look at him but he told me afterwards that was kind of why it was the way it was. He's like, that's not how I wanted to do it. We were going down to Orlando and we're going to go to Harry Potter, like where they have like the Harry Potter thing.
Okay.
And he was going to ask me there. But he just felt like with all the pressure and he was just getting so nervous, he was like, I just had to do it.
I just had to get out. So he asked you, gets out of the car and goes to Vegas.
Yes.
Like, what were you like when you were driving off? Were you emotional, crying, laughing?
No, I was really happy and I was kind of giggling just because, again, he's just an
that's
awkward,
how he would do it.
Yeah, he's just an awkward guy.
That is so funny.
It was typical of him, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
My youngest son is about to get married, and and you start, there becomes all this pressure from so many different people speaking into. I'm like, son, just to him and his fiance, just do what you want to do. Like, don't let people pressure you, and you doing stuff that's not even.
Because this is your time.
Yeah, this is your time.
About
yeah, it's about
else.
you.
Yes.
And so don't worry about all the stuff that we say. Even if I give you, like, just do what's going to make you happy. And that, because it's your story, And
everything else is just advice.
Yes,
do what you want to do.
That's right. That is so true. Yeah, it's so true. Okay, so I got some trivia talking about Guthrie. This might be some hard trivia for you. You came later in life, okay?
Yeah.
You weren't here from. You may not even know where these schools are at, but okay, so you got to tell me what street these schools are on. And I will even let you do this. I'll let you even do this.
Can we just pass?
Yeah. You can even kind of tell me where you think it might be if you don't know the street, okay?
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you half the street. I don't even know what street we're on right now.
Central Elementary? Do you know where Central is?
On Central Street.
So Noble. Do you know Fogarty? Which school Fogarty is?
I couldn't even tell you the name. Crooks Drive is the high school.
See, okay.
That's it.
You got that.
And is it
one.
Oklahoma is the middle school,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. So you
That's
wouldn't know any of these schools. No. Charter Oak, you definitely wouldn't. But Charter Oak, the way that you guessed the rest.
I was about to say that's kind of out. That's the new school.
Yeah, it is.
That's the one that Dixie works at.
It's on Charter Oak. Yes. Yeah. Do you still talk to Dixie?
I just Facebook.
Okay.
And that's why I like Facebook so much, is being in the military. That was my way to connect with people and to stay up with people and to see them grow and their kids grow up. So
who are a couple of people that you have been able to probably still stay connected to the most from your class?
Shannon Thompson, who's now Jackson.
Does she live in Edmond or does she live here?
She lives off of Pine and like kind of outward, in between Seward and.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so gotcha, a little ways, but and her kids go to Guthrie School.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I feel like I see her.
Yeah. And then Stephanie Dutton, she didn't graduate high school with us, but she went to some middle school. We played basketball. I think her freshman, maybe her sophomore year, she moved back to Edmond to live with her dad. But
what's her last name?
Dutton, Jeff Dutton's wife.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, got you.
She was out here, and like me and her and Margot Harvey.
Yeah, Margot.
We all kind of hung out, and so it's crazy as a Stephanie Dutton. Like whenever I would come home, I would have her do my hair, and that's how I got to visit with her. Right? Was you go get your hair done, and
now is she doing hair here or?
It's in Edmond.
Edmond, okay.
But so what's crazy is her daughter does hair. Well, I still go to Stephanie now since I've moved back. She's like my regular hairdresser. Do you even call them hairdressers now? It's like a stylist, right? And I'm
going to pass. I don't know.
My daughter, her daughter does my daughter's hair.
Get out of here.
Yeah, so it's
pretty
cool. But yeah.
How did that end up happening? Was that like because she found out that Stephanie's
they worked
daughter?
like in the same salon, and my daughter was looking for someone to do her hair.
Oh, gotcha.
And I was like, I can't remember. And Stephanie she's fully booked like most of the time. It's very hard to like sneak one in.
Yes.
Like there's no walk-in.
Gotcha.
And the same thing with her daughter. So, but I think at the time her daughter had just kind of started getting her client books and everything. And my daughter, it was easier for her to go to her, and they're pretty closer. They're a lot closer in age than, I think my daughter enjoys going. It's kind of like anytime you go to the barbershop or whatever, you enjoy talking to the people that are doing stuff. So.
Yeah, no, it's good. That's really good. That's cool that her daughter's doing your daughter and she's still doing yours.
Yeah.
That is super cool. All right. Can you share the best way that you've learned to give back to your community?
Just being there with people. Just giving props when props are due.
Yeah.
Telling people they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
And sharing compliments, because I don't think that we hear it enough. And no matter how many compliments you give, it's just one negative person that comes along that just completely will overtake any. So it takes about 10 to 20 compliments to overtake someone that just had one negative compliment or one negative statement.
Yeah.
Because even when we went to our class reunion, I remember talking to someone and I'm like, yeah, I still remember in middle school someone saying something about me, and it's still to this day I'm self-conscious about it, and someone's like, me too. Someone said something about my ears and I'm self-conscious about my ears, and I'm thinking, as grown women, something that someone said in middle school. So I think just being positive, showing love and giving compliments can make someone's day.
That's good.
Being mindful.
That's good. So I know you don't currently live in Guthrie, America, but I always end with this question. You can answer it however you want to. What does Choose Guthrie mean to you?
Community. I mean, that's one of the things that I loved about Guthrie.
Mm-hmm.
It was a culture shock to come back in a small town.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that we know each other, right? We might not have hung out at different stages or whatever, or we ran track together, but still being able to reach out. And I felt like if I needed something that you would be able to be there. Same thing with a lot of the other classmates. You don't get that small community feel in the bigger cities.
Yeah.
It's a lot more stressful. People don't get to know their neighbors. People don't venture out and into the community in some of the larger cities. And I always loved, like I said, looking back on Facebook or just 89ers and now like the Red Brick Nights, and some of the other events that Guthrie puts on. Whenever I was gone, that's what made me want to come back. And the only reason I didn't move back into Guthrie was, again, we wanted somewhere central to the airport. And since my son is on the autism spectrum, we needed like some of the support that wasn't necessarily here, is what they had like in Oklahoma City and Mustang area. So that's why we chose there. But choosing Guthrie is just, I wouldn't mind moving back here in a heartbeat, just because you don't see it when you're a kid. Yeah. But when you have kids, you want your kids to grow up in a smaller community. Yeah. Because there's fewer stressors. Yeah. It's bad to know that as you're a kid that everybody knows you. They probably know your parents, and you're like, but as a parent, that's a comfort.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. So. No, it's so true. I thought it was a great compliment that my son, who's about to get married, had a friend from New Mexico, Albuquerque, come. He's going to be in his wedding, and I guess Zell asked, his name is Fabian, like, what do you think about Guthrie? And he says, it feels like a place you would settle down in, and to me, it just that small town feel of just a place that you just kind of can settle down in and raise your family in. Or retire here, just kind of whichever one you decide. But this is a great spot for that. I said that was going to be the last question, but I feel like I love to ask you this question. What's something you're most grateful for as we get ready to get out of here?
Just the opportunity, one, to be here. I mean, to even be thought of to come and do this interview, because I see what you do and I love it. I love the success and. Okay, so now I had something else that I was even thinking about, but like Facebook or social media in itself, because it allows you to see the successes of people that we went to school with. And there's nothing that I love more than that, is just to see people and their families and how their kids are being successful. And to see how far we've come, right? As the young punks we were in high school to where we are now. How we're raising our kids and where our kids are, and how our kids are contributing to the communities and making those better. Yeah. because all you can do is raise your kids and hope that they turn out good. And the fact that my kids are all three contributing to society successfully and positively makes your heart grow. So I'm very grateful for that, and to see other people along those same lines to be able to share that with them. That's
really good. Thank you for sharing that. That's good. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Oh, thanks for the invite again. It's been my pleasure.
Yeah, good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all again for hitting that play button for another episode of the GuthrieAmerica podcast. And we are on a mission to have every story told of the people who do life here and who are from here. So the question is, will yours be next?